Hello, and welcome to Cyprus Beach House. This time, I want to talk to you about deeds. Yeah, I know, but this is important. I think if you are even considering moving here, this is something you really need to know about. By the way, if this sounds exciting to you and you'd like to see more magical content, go ahead and subscribe, and obviously you can ring the bell icon so you're notified the next time one of these videos comes out. Now, I want to tell you about 3 different types of deeds, and I want to close this video by telling you about a type of deed you never want to have. But first, I want to mention a couple things to you. If you watch a number of videos on YouTube, you will find that sooner or later somebody's going to say, listen, yeah, a Greek Cypriot may come to your home and take your home from you if you buy a home in North Cyprus. That's not true. It will not happen. And as you watch this video, I think you'll start to see why that is not true. Now, in the interest of full disclosure, it is possible that if several different governments and courts go against their own word and against rulings that they have made in the past, it is conceivable that you could have to pay for the value of the land your house sets on in 1974 dollars. Now, what that means is that back at that time, this was an agricultural society, and most of the housing developments in North Cyprus at this time were in fact pasture land back at that time. And so in the worst case scenario, you could have to pay for 1/122nd or whatever of the value of that pasture in 1974 dollars. But in order for that to happen, all parties would have to go back on their word on everything that has been said. I want to read you a little bit. Greece, the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, Turkey, and the UN High Commission for Human Rights are the parties that I'm talking about. It's unlikely they're all going to go back on their word. Now, a basic explanation. The European Court of Human Rights in 2006 created the Immovable Property Commission. And what that was for was specifically to stop things like somebody knocking on your door saying you were in their house from ever happening. And what happens basically is if you have a house and your house wound up on the other side of the green line created by the UN, you take your case to the Immovable Property Commission, and they are the ones who will determine the value of your house and give you the money that you would be owed. You don't go to the owner of that house. Now, let's get down to the real purpose of this video. There are 3 different kinds of deeds that I want to tell you about. The first is called a Turkish title deed. It's not Turkish at all. Turkish Cypriots living in North Cyprus before 1974 would have what is today referred to as a Turkish title deed. This is commonly considered the best form of deed, and normally it could be a business, it could be a villa, a single family home, and this type of deed normally adds perhaps a third to the value of the house. So you're going to pay extra for this particular type of deed. The next type of deed I want to tell you about is called an exchange title deed. Now, what's this? Folks were separated at the end of this conflict. Some folks had to move away from their homes. Others had to move in the opposite direction. And the governments decided what they would do would be to assign a point value to your home that you can't go back to anymore. So they assigned a point value to that home, but you live on the other side of the line now. the people on that side of the line also had values assigned to their homes. So you could exchange deeds. You gave up the right to your home in order to get a new home of equal value. That's called an exchange title deed. The next type of deed is called a TMD Title Deed. And what that was, at the end of the conflict, the government decided they would award land to people who either A, served the country during the war, in other words, they were soldiers, or B, they wanted to encourage people to move to North Cyprus, and so they would give them land in exchange for their coming here. This, by the way, is the most common type of title deed that most expats get. Now, underneath these three, there are other sub-deeds, so to speak. For example, a shared title deed. So, right, you live at a resort and there's 120 homes. You get a shared deed for 1/120th the value of the property the resort sets on. It's very common, and in fact, you probably will have something like that. When I started this video, I said I wanted to tell you about a kind of deed you want no part of, and that would be a home or land or something that is owned by someone who is Greek Cypriot. If a real estate agent offers you a Greek Cypriot home, walk away. Just don't do business with them. Don't mess with it. That's because that is the kind of home where somebody could knock on your door and you actually have to get out of their home because they have the deed to that house. So you don't want any part of that. You're not interested in stolen homes. And now going back to the top of the video, you see why I'm saying that's really not all that likely. It's really not going to happen. I hope some of this was educational for you, and maybe it'll help enlighten you to the different types of deeds. By the way, the deed is the last part in this process. You're going to get a sales contract first, and it can be a substantial length of time before you actually receive your deed. And I'll tell you more about that in a different video. Guys, thank you, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.